I never imagined it would take losing everything to gain the courage to start my own business. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I stood there, heart pounding, waves of despair slamming into me like a ferocious storm. The house, the safety net, my sanctuary gone in a fleeting moment. Flames danced around the walls, licking at memories, devouring everything I held dear. I could taste the smoke, bitter and stinging, the heat scorching my face as I watched. I felt tears streaming down my cheeks, a river of loss cascading from my eyes. It was just 1 month ago that I was working my 9 to 5, dreaming of one day breaking free. I could almost hear the laughter of my friends, the weekend plans and barbecues. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, sweet and comforting, telling me to chase my dreams, that I was capable of anything. But that stability was fleeting. Everything slipped through my fingers like grains of sand, as the flames consumed my life that I wanted to fight. To save what little I could. But the fire raged on, and I could only watch. I felt so small, so powerless, the world around me collapsing like a house of cards. The neighbors stood in shock, wide-eyed and whispering, their murmurs swirling around me, cutting deeper than the flames. 1 minute, I was whole, the next, I was a ghost in my own life. A nagging question echoed in my mind: who was I without all those pieces? My heart raced against the rhythm of the sirens wailing in the distance. Everything I had built, my plans, dreams, burned away. As the smoke cleared, I stood rooted in my trauma, the silence deafening. Just then, something stirred within me. A flicker of curiosity ignited under the weight of my despair. Maybe, just maybe, this was the push I needed. The courage to rise from the ashes. My father always said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." But with every crumbling brick around me, I wondered, could I really rebuild? Would I have the strength? Out of the chaos, something deep within me whispered a new idea. What if this was my chance? I could trade that lost life for something greater. But how? As the flames faded, and reality wrapped around me like a cold embrace, I felt small yet resilient, trembling but not broken. The question loomed, heavy in the air: what would I do next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. It took just a week for the haunting silence of the ash-laden remains to ripple through my mind, each day dragging heavier than the last. I found myself wandering through the rubble of what used to be home, my heart a dull thrum against the emptiness that surrounded me. The stark outlines of my life lingered like shadows where the kitchen table once stood, where the warmth of friends had danced through laughter, and where dreams had been carefully constructed over countless evenings spent under dim lights. But in the depth of despair, I acknowledged an undeniable truth: amidst the wreckage, I found a flicker of defiance. I would not be defined by the flames that shattered my world. There had to be another way forward. Then came the day when Clara showed up with a basket full of essentials, her smile an anchor against the crashing waves of confusion swirling in my heart. She stood at what was once my doorway, a threshold now littered with charred memories, and handed me the fragile woven offering, warmth radiating from her presence. "We're all in this together, you know," she said softly. Tears brimmed in my eyes as I rummaged through the basket: blankets, toiletries, a half-dozen homemade muffins wrapped tightly in wax paper. "Thank you," I whispered, feeling the weight in my chest lift momentarily. In that moment, kindness became a beacon against the encroaching darkness of my thoughts. Clara was the first to reach out, but slowly others began to follow suit, overwhelmed, yet supporting. It felt strange to accept help when I was so accustomed to being strong for others. Soon, weeks waned into a routine of bittersweet gratitude. Neighbors brought food, essential supplies, and even furniture. One evening, as I sorted through old things that had survived the fire, I stumbled upon my mother's recipe book. A rush of nostalgia swept over me. Flipping through the pages, I could almost smell the caramelized sweetness of her famous cinnamon rolls. That memory rekindled an idea within me, a spark ignited by the very essence that still stirred my heart. What if I channeled that love, that warmth, into something new? I wanted to honor her legacy, to create something tangible that breathed life after loss. But could I really do it? Could I transform pain into something fruitful, days turned into nights filled with scribbled plans and countless recipes hurriedly adapted to reflect who I was now? The nights were fueled by a mix of fear and excitement, equal parts overwhelming and liberating. I even thought about reaching out for a small business loan or making a GoFundMe page. My fingers quivered each time I hovered over the keyboard, uncertain if asking for help would render me pitiful or a pioneer of my own destiny. As I tested recipes, the kitchen transformed into my very own sanctuary. Flour spilled like an explosion of creativity across the countertops, batter puddled and imperfect, yet alive in its messy glory. Each small success felt like a step away from the ashes, a gradual emergence from the dark haze that had cloaked my spirit, but doubts began to creep in, relentless and insistent. What if I failed? What if no one wanted what I had to offer? One morning, as I was kneading dough with trembling hands, the weight of uncertainty bore down heavily. I crumpled on the kitchen floor, the loss of everything once again crashing over me like an unrelenting wave, fear tightening its grip around my throat. Just as I threatened to spiral into despair once more, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hesitating but compelled, I answered. An unexpected voice on the other end, filled with urgency and excitement, unleashed a torrent of words that would shift everything. "Hi, I'm from the local community center. We've heard about your story, and we're here to support emerging businesses in our area. We want to discuss a spot for you at the Sunday market." My heart swelled, and disbelief chased joy across my being. I'd never imagined such an opportunity could arise amidst my wreckage. But as hope began to blossom, twisting and burrowing its way through my vulnerability, a more profound fear gnawed at me. What if I learned that rebuilding was even harder than letting go? A moment passed before I managed to respond, voice trembling with intensity. "I'll have to think about it." The uncertainty lingered, pressing against my chest as shadows settled around me once again. The weight of potential slipped through my fingers. I was standing on the precipice between fear and hope, the flames at my back a constant reminder of what I had lost. But one thought took root. Sometimes, even through trials born of despair, the universe seems to offer glimpses of grace, fleeting but profound. Would I seize that chance, or let it fade into the creases of the mundane? The world felt both vast and impossibly small, each moment heavy with questions. Tonight would be different. Tomorrow could change everything. But the question danced in the back of my mind: could I dare to embrace my shattered dreams, or would the fear of failure hold me captive? As I stared at the walls that had once cradled my life, I wondered if I was strong enough to face what lay ahead, or if fate had other plans, waiting just beyond the horizon. The following days were a whirlwind of contemplation, like leaves caught in the storm of my own indecision. The prospect of participating in the Sunday market hung over me, a tantalizing possibility that both terrified and exhilarated. I moved through my days in a daze. Clara's kind visit echoed in my mind, and the basket of essentials became a symbol of community and resilience. But what if I failed them too? As I sat on my threadbare couch, sunlight draping my empty living room in a golden embrace, I considered the life I longed to weave from the frayed edges of my past. I returned to the recipe book, the culinary relic of shared laughter and love. Each page was a reminder of where I came from and what I wished to revive. But every page turned awakened the shadows of doubt. What would I show the world when all I felt was broken? What if my mother's recipes, those cherished memories, were no longer enough to conjure joy? The kitchen became both a sanctuary and a minefield, every whisk of the batter reminding me of the delicate balance between hope and despair. Then one afternoon, as I measured flour, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, clutching a bouquet of vibrant flowers, an unassuming splash of color against the gray backdrop of our shared loss. "I thought you might like some cheer," she said with a gentle smile, her crinkled skin radiant with kindness. For the briefest moment, I forgot the heaviness weighing down my heart. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," I murmured, unsure how to express the gratitude swelling inside me. "They're lovely. I remember when my house burned down years ago, and the fire leveled everything I had. It felt like losing my soul," she confessed, her gaze growing distant. "But I rebuilt, brick by brick. You will too, dear. Just remember, it's okay to lean on others while you find your footing." Her words lingered in the air, offering warmth like the sunlight filtering through my window. I invited her in for tea, and as we sat amidst the ruins of my once vibrant home, she recounted her journey through loss, her stories intermingled with patches of laughter, each tale an inspiring reminder that resilience was birthed from vulnerability. For the first time in a long while, I felt something stir inside. The edges of my doubts softened under the weight of connection that I spent the next few nights weaving together, not just recipes but conversations, sharing my culinary creations with my growing circle of support while simultaneously facing the ghosts of my past with newfound courage. Clara, Mrs. Thompson, and a few others stopped by to lend a hand. Clara was particularly enthusiastic. She seemed to sense my hesitation dissipating and took each opportunity to give me feedback on my creations, always encouraging, unearthing potential where I saw nothing but the remnants of my loss. "Launch yourself into it," she encouraged one evening as she bit into a batch of cookies I had braved to share. "This is not just about the food. You're giving life back to all that was taken." Her belief in me grew more potent with each passing day, a lifeline thrown to a drowning heart. Yet the crushing weight of doubt loomed still. As the days raced toward the market, my hands would tremble at each flicker of what-ifs. Would people come? Would they care? Then, as if to challenge my resolve further, I received an email from the community center. They sent me the official confirmation for my booth at the market along with a list of other vendors who would be present. I scanned the names, my heart racing, before pausing on one that sent a chill of recognition through my spine. A name I never thought I'd see again, Lila Sampson, the childhood friend I hadn't spoken to in years, and who was once known for her culinary prowess and domination of local markets. Images of our childhood flooded back, days spent baking with wild abandon and the thrill of culinary competitions that ended in laughter. But it all crumbled into silence and distance as adulthood isolated us on different paths. The thought of seeing her again, knowing how she had thrived while I had crumbled, felt like a punch to my gut. Would she look down at what I was attempting and find it laughable? I was torn between the excitement of reuniting and the dread of judgment, the clock ticking down toward the market day when the chasm of my past might finally pull me under. With every passing hour, I lost some measure of control, and the shadow of failure chased me relentlessly. As I dove into practice one last time, my hands moving through the familiar motions of mixing and shaping, the doorbell rang again. I hesitated for a moment, the face of my anxieties flickering through my thoughts. But I opened the door anyway, prepared to face whatever awaited me, ready to either receive kindness or summon my courage. Standing there was not only Clara, but with her was Lila. The past and present converging in that single moment. I felt my heart drop, the world narrowing in on itself as I reached for words that wouldn't come, the gate of uncertainty swinging open with a creaking groan. There she stood, the flame of youth visible in her eyes, a ghost of our childhood lingering in the air between us. I felt fear intertwining with a strange rush of hope, a hair's breadth between reconciliation and rejection. Would our shared laughter return, or had too much time carved gaps too wide to bridge? And through the uncertainty, I could almost hear my mother's voice, urging me forward. Could I allow the possibilities of connection to bloom, or would the specter of my past extinguish the flickering flame of hope I had begun to nurture? As their eyes met mine, I realized